Welcome to my kitchen. I am in a super good mood today because my coffee machine has been mended. I was a very sad little boy the other day because it broke and I was very unhappy. But now we're back on so we can cook. Right, everyone's still loving Bake Off. Lots going on in the UK here. Everyone's getting into baking again, which is brilliant. And I thought, right, time for a bit of seasonality. The last of the blackberries in the Lake District where I live are there to be picked. And my little dog, Pip, picks them as well. So I have to get there before she does. But we managed to get a few. So I thought we'd make a really beautiful blackberry and apple crumble Victoria sponge cake. Now, don't tell Kerry and the dogs because Kerry will be all over this. And I'm sure once it's in the oven, he'll be smelling it from down the road and he'll be knocking on my door. So we'll see what happens. But first of all, let's make a proper Victoria sponge. And it's a classic. It's the Great British Cake. So I have got 250 grams of room temperature butter. Okay, you could use margarine if you prefer. The jury's out. Whichever you prefer is okay by me. Emily is a stalk girl, aren't you? I am a butter boy. Yeah. All right? We argue about that all the time. Yeah. Okay, so in with our caster sugar, 250 grams. So it's an equal amount. Very much Victoria sponge cakes. Equal sugar, equal butter, equal flour, and then it'll be 4 eggs for this one. So using the back of your spoon, can you see that all right, Emily?
I can.
It's nice to have you back on the edit. I feel like I've been doing a lot of these with Carlos recently.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's time to develop her culinary knowledge once again.
Baffle me.
Baffle her with flavours and, We've already had a discussion this morning. There's an amazing coffee that Jury, my friend down the road, is making. And he stored the coffee in whiskey barrels. And I've got that much coffee to get through till I get to the whiskey barrel coffee. So we've just been chatting about that now. So it sounds like it's going to be amazing. I can't wait. So you can see back of the spoon allows me to really sort of cream the butter and the sugar together. And you know when it's ready, when it stops sounding like it's scratching in the bowl. And that's when the sugar has started to dissolve into the fat. Because what we're trying to do is amalgamate the two textures together to allow us to then incorporate the eggs. Okay, and because it's room temperature, it's easy. When it's not room temperature, it's like chucking it in a cement mixer, I'll be honest with you. Okay, so get your butter out. Unless you use stork, in which case it's fine. Isn't it right, Emily?
Nothing
right,
with a bit
so,
of margarine.
making a mess, but that's okay. Right, so vanilla in first. All right, don't skimp on vanilla. That would be my one tip when you're baking. Don't buy synthetic vanilla extract, or essence, should I say. Invest in your vanilla. It's very expensive, but there are some really good extracts now. I'm using a fair trade. It's an American one, actually, but it is beautiful. It is so much nicer than, there's nothing worse than cheap vanilla, is there?
No.
It's horrible.
It adds nothing to it.
You'd rather not use it. And if you haven't got any, don't use it. But
could you if you had the luxury of a vanilla pod?
Oh, yeah.
Because I know you sometimes put the vanilla pod in your sugar, don't you?
Yeah. So if you've got vanilla pods, personally, I would use the vanilla pod, the inside of it, in my buttercream, because that's when you're going to really enjoy it. And then when you've scraped it out, keep the pod bit and chuck it in a jar of sugar and leave it. And every time you use vanilla, add the vanilla bean into the stalk, into the sugar, and you end up with like half a dozen in a big bowl of sugar. Just top it up with normal sugar, and then you've got vanilla sugar, which is delicious. So you kind of get 2 bites of the cherry with it. But, look at that. What a mucky pup. Oh, there you go. That's what happens. That's okay. Right, so now time to add our eggs and add some coffee to the baker. Nice. Right, so eggs at room temperature as well. Okay, that's really important. Eggs are far more elastic when they're at room temperature than fridge. Okay, and then in with 1 egg, and then we mix. Okay, So mix slowly. We'll try not to make a mess again.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'm normally the messy one in here.
Yes, that's why we keep her behind the camera. Right, okay, so 1 egg in.
Would you do this same process in a mix if you had an electric mixer?
Absolutely, yeah. Just turn your mixer right down. And it's at this point, take your time. There is no rush. If you rush this, you end up with a really tight sponge. And what we're trying to do is this is a masterclass in Victoria sponge, okay? So room temperature butter, in with the sugar, good vanilla, room temperature eggs, 1 at a time, okay?
What is, obviously people, it's something I don't do, I don't put my eggs in the fridge.
No.
Why would you have to let them come to room temperature?
Because they're far more elastic when they're at room temperature. And eggs going into a sponge, it's about having the elasticity to hold everything together. So we're getting into the sort of the molecular level of cake baking now. And I learnt this from Mitch Turner, my judge on Britain's Best Bakery. So when I did a couple of TV shows for ITV, I was a judge on a bakery programme. Sound familiar? And I was very much savoury and breads and things like that. And Mitch is what she doesn't know about cakes is not worth knowing. I must get her on the show one day.
Yeah.
We'll have to get her on. We'll tag her in. Mitch, you need to come up north and see me. Okay. And we used to sit and chat about the molecular side of cake baking a lot. And she knows so much about cakes. It's unbelievable. I know how to eat them, and I'm pretty good at baking them. Right, so 3rd egg in. And you can see that, that yolk's not bouncing around. It does not want to mix in, but we will get it. There we go. It's in. By adding your eggs 1 at a time, your mixture will not split. Whereas sometimes, when you sort of chuck everything in and you find it splits a little bit, Emily's giving me that look of, yes. Add your eggs 1 at a time. And then we fold the flour in at the end, and you're done.
So could this cake mix is kind of a base for to add any flavour?
Once you can nail this comfortably, I mean, it is super easy. Just follow the principles of the recipe, then you can make anything. Now, if you wanted to make this into a chocolate cake, you need to lift out a little bit of the flour and put the cocoa powder in, because what you find, cocoa powder will suck the moisture out of the cake. And you find that it becomes too dry, so you need to remove 25 grams of flour, add 25 grams of cocoa into it, and then you'll get a really nice chocolate cake. I quite like add a little bit of coffee and a little sprinkle of salt as well if I'm going to make a chocolate Victoria sponge. So can you see that now, Emily? Look,
yeah.
That's not split, all right? That is our base mixture. Now, 250 grams of self-raising flour. You can sieve it if you like. If you can't be bothered, that's okay too, because most flour is already sieved before it goes in the bag, but we want a really good rise on this, so let's sieve it.
Do you have baking powder?
No, don't need it. Not if you've got the eggs and everything self-raising. It should just lift nicely. Do you use baking powder as well?
A little bit.
Oh, you cheat. What a cheat.
See, I'm learning things because I normally throw everything into a mixer.
I know. That's not wrong. I'm just trying to break it right down into principles, and once you've got those principles, you're done. So what I'm doing is I'm going to fold the cake and the flour into the mixture. So my spoon is going anti-clockwise and my hand is going clockwise. Can we see this all right? Maybe go overhead, Emily.
Yeah. Keep your head.
Yeah. My beautiful bouffon is getting in the way. So, like that. Start at 12 o'clock, finish at 6. Does that make sense? Yeah? And once it starts to mix in, then lift it and fold it in, like so. We can cut to an alternative shot now. There we go. So if I tilt that like that, you can kind of see, can't you?
This one.
Oh, is it this one? So many cameras. Okay, so there we go. All right? So just because I'm using a silicone spoon, it means that I can get all the way around and mix it together. It's really important that you don't over-mix this because we've added the flour, which means we've added the gluten. Now, don't panic about gluten-free because next week I'm going to do a gluten-free lemon thyme and courgette cake. It's delicious. All right. So there is our Vicky sponge. Right. Got some loose bottom tins here. I've got 2. And I'm just going to divide the mixture. Now, if you want absolute precision, weigh it out, all right? So put these onto the scales, zero it, and weigh it if you want. But I'm not going to bother. I'm going to wing it because that's just what I do. So I'm 2 big spoons and then divide the last of the mixture, all right? I've done this a few times. Okay, so... Right, let's pop that into there.
For a cake of that size, what do you need your oven temperature?
170 fan. And I'm going to find out what it is for Fahrenheit and gas mark, because there is a certain lady on Facebook that always says to me, what is it in Fahrenheit and gas mark? And I will answer that question with the recipe, I promise. So if you want the recipe, scan the QR code along the bottom or go to masterclass.co and you'll find it there. And I promise I will have written Fahrenheit and gas mark in there as well. I have a feeling it's 350, but
gas
check.
is about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
5.
We use electric fan here and induction, so I'm very electric. We have solar panels, you see, so we're very lucky. The sun powers our house and our studio, which is very lucky, and it's not really out today, so we're not going to be making much juice today. So let's just spread that cake. So start from the middle and just kind of push it out. There we go. And then just make sure any excess there. Right. We are nearly ready for the oven. So I'm just going to wash my hands. Now, because we want this as a crumble cake, we need to make crumble, all right? This is where my mate Kerry gets a little bit excited because it's crumble. Okay, so I'll leave those there for a minute. Now I've got plain flour, demerara sugar and salted butter in there, okay? All I'm going to do is then just rub with my fingertips the butter, and I'm making a crumble. And we're going to sprinkle it on one of the cakes, okay? Because we want it to have a nice crumbly top. We're inspired by a blackberry and apple crumble, but we turn it into a cake, all right? So that's where we've taken our inspiration. So just rub the butter in to the flour and the sugar, and we'll just get this really nice crumble then, all right? And then I'm just going to roll my hands around there.
Is that your crumble? Because obviously sometimes when you're making a crumble topping, you can make like too much.
Yeah, yeah.
You can freeze.
You can freeze it if you like. You can also bake it and put it in a jar and sprinkle it on ice cream with a bit of lemon curd or jam. Oh, it's good. It's really good. So there, you know, or you could use it for muffins if you're baking muffins, like really nice blueberry muffins, bit of lime zest in there. Sprinkle some crumble on the top, and then they're just like they are in the coffee shops, aren't they? So you get a bit of texture, so it's nice. Okay, right. I'm just going to add a little bit of cinnamon into this because I think it'll be really nice. I have found my cinnamon. Okay, so half teaspoon of cinnamon in there. You could use mixed spice as well if you haven't got cinnamon. That's okay. We just want that nice kind of mulled, spicy flavour. All right, okay.
Christmas tunes are going to be coming out soon, Pete.
Yeah, it's not long, is it? It's like 7 weeks till Christmas or something like that. Yeah, something bonkers. Seven, my daughter has been reminding me. Okay, so I'm going to use this one as my top. So just sprinkle it on. Not too heavy, all right? Because we want it to crumble up. There we go. And then I have actually got some left. So I'm going to freeze that, and I'm going to use it on some really lovely blueberry and lime muffins for the weekend. Okay, so these can go in the oven, 170 degrees. Probably going to take between 25 and 30 minutes, depending on how good your oven is. Cakes in the oven. Right, now it's time to turn our attention to the filling. So rather than jam, we're going to make a really nice blackberry and apple compote, okay? And compote's just sugar, fruit, boiled down. but the key is not to stir it and break all the fruit down, okay? So I'm going to start with a cooking apple, and I am going to try and peel it in one go.
I knew you were going to say that.
Because I can't resist. And this peeler is just the best for it. It's the Y peeler from Masterclass. And it just is brilliant for this job. And if you're like me and you have to try and do it in one, which I do, so much concentration going on for this. Oh, I'm so close. I'm so close. I feel I've developed a technique for this. I've got like a 100% record, haven't I, on live apple peelings.
Yeah, I was going to say, under a lot of pressure too.
I am. And I've done it to myself.
Yep.
Oh, that was close. Nearly slipped. Oh, yes. All in one. Look at that.
The sense of satisfaction.
Yeah. Hello, Pip. She's heard the apple, the dog. She's like, that's mine. Right, so let's cut it in half, cut it into quarters. Now, I'm using cooking apples because they're nice and sour and they kind of balance out the sugar and they work perfectly. But you could use an eating apple if you want to, but you just need to sort of think about the sugar that you're adding, and you might need to add a bit of lemon juice to kind of counterbalance it. So all I'm going to do is cut my apples, and I'm going to cut mine quite small, okay, because they won't necessarily break down and dissolve this apple. It's going to hold its shape.
To make apple crumbles, I always used to pinch slices of that type of apple.
Did you?
Yeah. It's nothing nicer than a bit of tart apple.
Do you want a bit? There you go.
Thanks.
Do not. Disclaimer, don't eat cooking apples. She'll find out why in a bit. Right, nice and small dice, okay? So I'm using a 20 centimetre edge keeper knife, okay? They are my favourite knives because they come with one of these, which this little red bit is a sharpener. So every time I put the knife away, it sharpens it. Every time I take it out, it sharpens it. There is nothing worse than blunt knives, okay? Sharp knives do what they're supposed to do. Right, I'm just putting the apple straight into the frying pan so that I keep my chopping board clear, and it means you can see what's going on. So I'm going to cut my apple that way. Is it a little bit sour?
Oh, I like it.
To be fair, I like a sour apple, but I think a cooking apple's a little bit too sour for me. I like a Pink Lady, or a Granny Smith, or a Braeburn.
Oh, Braeburn, yes.
Yeah, you see? I do like and I like them out in the fridge. I like them cold and crisp.
They've got to be crisp.
Like your white wine. Okay, so apple in. In fact, I'm going to put the heat on now, get it going, get things cooking. Okay?
So have you just used one quite large apple, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, all cooking apples are pretty big, really, at the moment. So one apple, but you could make more than you need and keep it in the fridge or the freezer so that you can use it for all kinds of different things. It's the apple core. She's after the apple core. I know she is. But I'm not convinced I should give it to her. Because I've given her tidbits before and it's not gone well, if you know what I mean. Okay, so apple.
What else could you pair with apple if you didn't like or didn't want to use blackberries? Is there anything else you could
Apple and raspberries really nice. You could just do apple. You could do caramel apple crumble cake. That'd be good, wouldn't it? So on last week's episode, we did sticky toffee pudding with a miso caramel sauce. What you could do if you've made that, and if you've got any caramel sauce left, why? But anyway, if you do, cook some apples down and you could make a really lovely caramel apple crumble Victoria sponge, which would be good. You could just do like any kind of blueberry and apple would be nice. You could do, I'll tell you what, if you're watching this near Christmas, you could do apple and mincemeat filling. Ooh, so not what Rachel did in Friends and use beef, mincemeat as in mince pie filling, okay? And you could mix it all together with the cooked apple. That would be really nice for an alternative Christmas cake. So, right, I've got some spices. So we're going to add a little bit of flavour in here. So I'm going to add a cinnamon stick, a whole cinnamon stick, because I want the flavour to permeate rather than it to taste full-on cinnamon. Oh, if you've only got ground cinnamon, just use like 1/4 of a teaspoon, because you don't want a big flavour. And then I really love star anise, okay? That lovely aniseed flavour works really well. We can add a touch of vanilla, since we're feeling extravagant. And then I've got some of my frozen blackberries, because when I picked them, I whacked them straight in the freezer because I wanted them to be really nice and plump. And then in with our sugar, okay? And we're just going to give this a little stir now, get it all mixed up, and then once it's mixed, we're just going to leave it to gently cook down, all right? I don't want to stir it, I don't want to break the blackberries up, I just want the whole thing to cook down nicely.
So you've used caster sugar for yours?
Yeah.
Could you use...
You could totally use granulated sugar, it doesn't matter.
Does it matter what type of sugar you use?
I mean, I think if you use brown sugars, you're not going to get a clean fruit flavour, you're going to get a toffee, jammy, sort of caramel flavour. Whereas for me, it's about the apple. So I think you want
those flavours to come through.
What we're trying to do is just get a very clean, balanced, fruity flavour. And white sugar will just give us the sweetness and give us the balance, because the apples are very tart and the blackberries, and I want the star anise and the cinnamon to come through in there as well. So if I just let that sit, that's going to take about 20 minutes on a medium to low heat. Just let it tick over. Let it bubble away and let it do its thing. Don't be tempted to stir it. Okay, my cake is baked, and all I have done is cooled it on a rack, and I've put the butter icing on the bottom. Now, it's really important when you put your butter icing on that you almost create like a little lip. So all I'm going to do is put my spoon? What's a spoon? My spoon in at 45-degree angle, and I'm just trying to push the buttercream down so that I end up with a little lip, so that when I put the blackberry and apple compote in, it kind of sits in like a little bowl. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it doesn't spill out. Although, when I show you the compote, it won't, but it's a bit of a sort of safety precaution, really, if you like. There we go. Right. Look at that. I love buttercream. Oh, lovely. Right. Can you see this, Emily? Look at the compote now. Look how it has reduced and cooked down. Now, I've got cinnamon and star anise here. Wash them, all right? Dry them and save them for your mulled wine at Christmas. Don't throw them out. Okay, so it's cooked down. I'm just going to pop some in the middle. There we go. I think that might do. Look at the colours. Doesn't that look amazing? Oh, that is proper British autumn. Blackberry and apple. What a combination. Cannot go wrong with this. It's going to be good. A little bit more. Just there. I think this afternoon's going to be quite tasty this afternoon. Get the kettle on. Right. Let's move that to one side. Now, here is the other half. Now, can you see how the crumble has all just sort of sat on the top of the cake and it's gone like an apple crumble type would? So, because it's a loose bottom tin, we can just lift it straight out. Love it when a plan comes together. And then let's get a knife. And then we'll just run that underneath. In fact, just run that round. And because it's non-stick, it'll come off nice and easily. There we go, we're released. And then, this is going to be the shot you want, Emily, isn't it? Do you want this back in here?
Yeah, a little bit further back.
A little bit further back.
Towards you.
There we go. Oh, look at that. There's the shot. Right, let's pop this crumble topping on there. Look at that.
You know what will go lovely with this, Pete? Big bowl of custard.
Custard?
Yeah.
No.
Maybe without the buttercream.
I was thinking a nice cup of coffee.
It's crumble.
I have a feeling I know a man with a few spaniels round the corner who would be all over this.
Yeah.
Do you think he's got spider sense? Do you think he knows?
Probably.
Right, I'm just going to dust this with a little bit of icing sugar. There we go. Beautiful. Now that is how you make the most delicious blackberry and apple crumble cake. Now if you want the recipe for this or any of the recipes that I have done over the past year, please scan the QR code along the bottom. It'll take you to the website, masterclass.co. You will find them all there. If you have any questions at all about today's recipes or program, please post them in the comments below. I'm here to help you. Now, I'm going to put a lid on this and go and boil the kettle because it's time for a cup of tea. So thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you on the next episode. Right, I've got this amazing couscous dish with chicken glazed pomegranate. It's really, really nice. And I've got the couscous, I've got tinned peaches in there and feta, which is blowing Emily's mind a little bit, but I have a feeling she's probably going to quite like this. Oh. So, couscous. Lots of people talk to me about this. They have a problem with making couscous and they don't know how to do it. So, I'm going to show you, very simple. I've got 200 grams of couscous. Can you see that, Emily, all right? Yep. I've got my jug and my scales at 0 with my vegetable stock cube in there. So I want 300 mils of boiling water, okay? The general rule of thumb with couscous is pour boiling water or stock just over the top of the couscous. So I've got my 300 mils there. Grams and mils weigh exactly the same with water and milk and things like that. So you can weigh it easily, but most scales will change to mils as well. Okay, so give that a quick stir just to break down the stock cube. Very quickly now, we want to act quick because we don't want to lose our temperature. Now, I'm adding stock because I want big flavour in there, okay? And then all we're going to do is just pour the water over the couscous, all right? Give it a stir once, twice, 3 times, and that's it. Now, it's really important that you leave this to stand. Do not stir it. Do not mess around with it. Just leave it, all right? And it will absorb the flavour. The top of it will look dried out when it's ready, okay? Only then do you fluff it up and move it around. But this gives us the perfect amount of time to make the chicken, all right? So while the couscous is just soaking and doing its thing, we can get the chicken ready. Now, I've got 3 chicken breasts here. The recipe is for 4, okay? But I've got 3 chicken breasts. It came in a pack of 3, so I'm just going to show you for that. So all I'm going to do is just score the chicken, skin side up. We've actually removed the skin, but it's that side of the chicken that we're going to do it with, okay? So there we go. Cut that. Now, I've got some really lovely olive oil here. A little bit on there. That'll do. And then I've got some ground cumin, which is a flavour that's really going to work nice with this. If you love it, put plenty on. If you don't put much on at all. And if you don't like it at all, it's still going to work. But so I've got some cracked pepper, which I always have by the hob. And then I've got some nice Maldon sea salt, which is what I use for this kind of cooking. But then I also have table salt for other things as well. Now, I've got a cast aluminium non-stick frying pan getting hot, okay? It's really important that you season, oil, get everything ready for the frying pan, and then let the pan get hot, all right? Don't put oil in the pan. It's much better doing it this way around. Right, I've got my non-stick cast aluminium pan getting hot and ready, okay? So, the seasoned side down into the pan, all right?
Is there any other meats or vegetables that you could use with this seasoning if you didn't want chicken?
Yeah. You could do it with some pork if you wanted to. Lamb is really nice with these kind of flavours. You could do it with some halloumi. That might work quite nicely. You could just do it with some really beautiful roasted courgettes, aubergines. Doesn't have to be meat. I just thought I'd show you this way. So, while the chicken's that side, I'm going to season this side as well. Okay? So a little bit of salt and pepper. And where's my cumin? And then just so that we get good, even distribution of flavour all the way around. Now, while the couscous is cooking, all right, we're going to make the flavouring. Now, tinned peaches. It is, what is it? We're in October here in the UK. We don't really have very good peaches at the moment. We've had them. Summer's gone. So, tinned peaches. Everyone loves a tinned peach, don't they? I grew up with them having ice cream.
Yeah, me too.
But I thought this would work really, really well with my couscous and my chicken, all right? So, the good thing about using tinned peaches is they are perfectly ripe, okay? And they're delicious because they don't pick them until they're delicious and then they can them and process them. So, what I'm going to do is just take a knife and I'm just going to cut them into little pieces, all right? Now,
it's blown my mind a little bit.
Is it?
Yeah.
I like doing that. I feel it's part of my calling in life is to blow Emily's mind. No. Fruit and couscous work incredibly well together and this whole dish kind of works around sweet, sour, salty, okay? So this is our sweetness that's going on in here, all right? So if you, wherever you are in the world, have got beautiful fresh peaches, good for you, use them. I'm only using tin peaches here in the UK because that's what I've got right now. And I wanted to create a recipe that meant you could, you know, hit the cupboard if you needed to. In with your peaches. Now, keep the syrup. We're going to use this in a minute. Right, now let's check chicken. So you'll notice I didn't touch the chicken, I just left it to caramelise. All right, and turn. And look at the golden colour that I get on that by not touching it and not moving it around, okay? Now, feta cheese. This is going to be the saltiness that we're going to get in our couscous, all right? So, you could use a goat's cheese as well if you wanted to. But I really like feta with this. It works really well. So we're just going to cut it into little cubes. So you get a really nice, even distribution. Okay. And then just sit that on top of the peaches. And I still haven't moved the couscous, all right? I've left it because it's still cooking. It's still soaking up all that beautiful stock. Okay? Really important. Right. I'm going to send Emily out for some fresh mint in a minute, and then we'll finish that. It'll be beautiful. Now, chicken is cooking. I've got myself a fresh pomegranate here. And this is where you kind of cut and you hope you get that beautiful, lovely crimson coloured one. Oh, I've got a good one. Got a good one, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the pomegranate into here with my peach syrup. So you're going to got a bit of sweetness here and you're going to have some sharpness and acidity from the pomegranate. So in with half the syrup from the tin, all right? Now, if you're using fresh peaches, you need to add maybe a little bit of maple syrup, maybe. A touch of honey might work, or a bit of water and sugar, just to give you that sort of sweet syrup. And then with our pomegranate, now, it makes a mess, all right? What I don't want is this crimson all over my shirt. So I'm going to turn it over like this. So I've got cut side down, and I'm going to squash it like that, and then turn it and squash it. And all I'm doing is turning and squashing and turning and squashing. And you can see all the pomegranates coming out. All the seeds are out. All right, give it a little shake, give it a little tap like that. And out they come, all right? And we'll do the same again with the other half. So squeeze it. So my finger and my thumb are at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Squeeze, turn it, squeeze it, all right? This one's broken up quite nicely, actually. So in, there we go. Looks like a massacre in here, doesn't it? Okay, so let's just have a quick wipe. So now we've got our lovely sort of sour, fruity pomegranate. We've got a bit of the peach syrup in there. Okay, and now I'm just going to raise the temperature a little bit. And then any bits that are in there, sometimes you get a bit of the fibres from the inside, just grab it, get rid of it. Okay? Now, while that's cooking, we're going to make what they call a dukkha, which is like an Egyptian sesame, spices and nut sprinkling on this chicken. All right, and once all this is reduced and gone quite sticky, the sesame will stick to the chicken and just give it that lovely flavour and texture, okay? So, let's just move the pomegranate in and crank the heat up on the chicken. I'm just going to move it over to one side so that I can cook the other. So let's pop that on there. Grab myself a pan, pop that on there. Really, really simple this, okay? So let's get a little bit of olive oil, tiny drizzle, not a lot. I've got some walnuts, let's get them in first. Cumin seeds, get those in, they're gonna give real fragrance. Coriander seeds, which I love because they go really crunchy, okay? And then sesame seeds, all right? And what I would suggest is you make way more than you need of this because it goes into a jar and then you can keep it, and it's really nice for sort of, if you're having a few pita breads in the evening, you know, with a glass of wine, dip in olive oil and then dip in this and you get that lovely crunch and fragrance, delicious. So in with a decent amount of sesame seeds and then give the pan a shake, and what that'll do is it'll level everything out, okay? Get everything at the same level so it toasts. I'm going to put a little bit of salt in there, not too much. If you like it spicy, you could put dried chili flakes in there, which would work really well. But if you don't, that's absolutely fine. Just leave it as it is, and we're just going to let that toast. Right, the sesames, the walnuts, and the spices are toasted. The kitchen smells amazing. It's really fragrant, really nutty. What you need is a decent pestle and mortar. Now, if you haven't got one, you can get one really easily. Get a big one. Failing that, let it cool down. Put it in a plastic bag and use a rolling pin and roll it if you haven't got one. But I would highly recommend getting one of these. This is the Masterclass Granite Pestle and Mortar. Don't know which one is which. No idea. Never remember. But it doesn't matter. But the bigger they are, the more robust and the better job they do. So if you can, go for the big one. And then just grind. Don't grind it down to nothing, all right? It's not about a sort of generic single consistency powder. It's just about breaking the walnuts up and giving a nice flavour. I mean, it's the coriander. Once you crack that coriander seed, it just smells amazing. It's so good. Yeah. It's great with lamb, it's great with feta. It's Egyptian. So it's got that kind of North African, Middle Eastern kind of thing going on, but beautiful, just dipped with olive oil and bread. Amazing. But have a smell of that.
Hello. You can smell it from over here.
Oh, it's so good, so good. Right, let's bring the chicken back in so you can see what's going on. So can you see that, Emily? Can you see how it's reduced down to a syrup? All right, and we're just going to turn the chicken over and just soak up all that flavour. Now you want to boil it down and reduce it. It wants to be a syrup. It doesn't want to be a sauce. So don't be afraid of it going, oh look, I think it's over reducing. That's where we want it to be, because we want it to stick the sesame and the walnuts and the spices to it. Okay, so it's got that amazing flavour. Now, back to our couscous. Can we cut into this, Emily? Because it's really important now.
Yeah.
If you remember, I haven't stirred that couscous once. I've sat the peaches on, I've sat the feta on there. Emily has been into the garden and got me some fresh mint. Okay, and I am just going to grab some scissors, actually, because I don't want to overcut, I don't want to like mince it to nothing. So I'm just going to snip the mint up, keep it really fresh, really light. There we go. And then I've got a lemon. I'm going to cut the lemon in half, and we're just going to dress this couscous now with nothing more than a bit of lemon juice. Okay, juice of 1 lemon, and then some good olive oil. You see that all right, Emily? So pour the olive oil over the feta and the peach. See, this looks good, doesn't it? This looks nice. This is your kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and as well, it's nice to like it coming into autumn and things like that to still have light, refreshing, healthy stuff. Because sometimes in winter you go a little bit down.
A bit too comfort food and a bit rich, and yeah. Now, and I actually think in autumn and winter we crave this because we can't have it. So this is a great way to have fresh, light, flavoursome, really nice food. Now, we've squeezed the lemons into the couscous, all right? Keep them. Do not throw these away, okay? Pack them into a jar with salt and leave them. And as you use more lemons, chuck them in and you end up with preserved lemons, which is the backbone of making an amazing tagine. So whether it be chicken, lamb, vegetable tagine, when you've got salted lemons, you just get this amazing depth of flavour that you just can't buy in a seasoning packet. So make sure you pack them in salt in a jar and keep them. They take about 4 weeks to get ready to cook with. Right, now back to this couscous. Again, I haven't touched it, but can you see how light and fluffy it is? You see that, Emily?
Yeah.
It is, and all I'm doing now is just lifting it through with a fork, and look how light and fluffy and fragrant. It's just really light now. It's not soggy, it's not stodgy. None of that. Let me get a big mixing bowl actually, and then we can dump it in here and give it a really good mix, all right? So in it goes, and because it's one of those things that actually the best way to make it is not to touch it and mess about with it. Can we see that now? A bit better? Yeah, okay. So, just use a fork, stir it all up, and there we go. We got it. We're done. Ready to serve. Now, our chicken has reduced. Yeah. So we've got that nice. I'm just going to let that go 1 minute while we get a plate or a bowl or something. So what I'm going to do is get our couscous. So we just pop all that onto there.
The thing is as well, that couscous will make some really nice like lunches for work.
Super easy. I mean, my wife takes a packed lunch when she's at work. This will be going in her lunchbox tomorrow. Okay, lovely. Right, now let's just take this chicken, give it a really good, dip it in that syrup. Make sure it picks up all that lovely syrup, all right? And then turn it over. Yeah, let's bring that onto there, and then we will get a spoon and let's just sprinkle this onto our chicken. All right, like so. There we go. Get rid of that. And then on it goes. So just sit it on there like that.
Bring the couscous into the middle of the chopping board.
Into the middle. There we go.
Yeah,
needs to be a bit closer to you, does it?
Yeah.
Right, and then grab any of those lovely pomegranate seeds. You've kind of almost created like a molasses, which you can actually buy pomegranate molasses in the supermarket. It's really, really nice. Right, there you go. There is my couscous with tinned peaches. Yes, I said it. Tinned peaches, feta, couscous with fresh mint running through it. And I've served it up with a sweet and sour sticky glazed chicken in pomegranate, sprinkled with dukkha, which is a sesame, coriander, cumin, and walnut topping. So it's beautiful and crispy. I'm going to have a taste because I just dying to have a taste and let Emily know how good it is.
Oh, you're making me hungry now.
That is so good. That is really, really good. That is delicious. Now, if you want the recipes, scan the QR code on the bottom. It'll take you to the masterclass.co website. You will find this week's recipes all on there, along with all the others. I think we're on episode 45 or 46 at the moment. So there's loads for you to get your teeth sunk into. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.